are listening to the 90 Days Later podcast with Anna Charles, episode 178. Welcome to the 90 Days Later podcast, where we talk about what really happens when you take a break from drinking. And it turns out to be the best thing you've ever done. I'm Anna, coach to high achievers who are done waking up with regret and ready to feel in control around alcohol. If you've ever wondered what your life could look like with less wine and more you, you're in the right place. Hi all, and welcome back to the podcast. I hope you're all well. Now, for years, for about the last however many years, for me, when it's April, it means one thing. It means it is the Snooker World Championships, and you may have heard me talk about this before on the podcast, but right now, yes, it's April, right now it's the championship. So it's actually interesting that the title of this podcast is I Don't Want to Miss Out. And that is exactly the way I am operating at home at the moment. I don't want to miss out on any of the matches. At the moment, they've got 2 tables on the go. They've got obviously 2 sets of matches. So I'll have one on the TV and then I'll be streaming the other match on my iPad. I'm kind of dueling snooker at the moment to see which is the interesting match, trying to follow it all. And when one has a break, I switch to the other. It's snooker morning, noon and night. That will ease off actually as we get towards the finals. It'll just be, I think it's morning or after. I'm not sure. It'll be just 2 sessions a day. But my poor husband, have a feel for him. He's coping with all the snooker. Anyway, so I do have time though to come to you and talk about not wanting to miss out. And it is not snooker, but is of course I'm going to talk about you're not going to want to miss out on, or what is it when it comes to wine and beer and so on? Is it the fun? Is it the laughter? Is it the feeling uninhibited? Is it feeling like one of the gang? Is it feeling like you're going to de-stress, right? Just that alone, just seeing out that we don't want to miss out and that we attribute that to not drinking alcohol, right? I think is interesting. So I'd like you to consider that first. But anyhow, so what we're going to talk about today is really, really simple and really powerful. And it is that phrase, I don't want to miss out, right? I don't want to miss out. You don't want to miss out on being the interesting one. You don't want to feel left out when everyone else is laughing and letting loose. And if that is you, perfect. You are in exactly the right place, because what we're going to do today is we're going to slow this thought down, even though I talk very quickly. We're going to slow this thought down and we're going to look at what's going on underneath it. Because here is the thing. When you are focused, this is very important, when you are focused on what you might miss out on by drinking less, you are often not seeing what you're already missing out on by drinking. Think about that. Because this is where it gets interesting. It's what I call the real missing out. Right? Because I want to have some balance here. We're going to talk about missing out because we're not drinking. Let's talk about what we're missing out on when we are drinking. We are taught by society, our friends, our parents, our neighbours, entertainment, by the characters on EastEnders, goodness knows what, that drinking is the gateway to connection, to fun, to laughter, to coping with bad feelings, to coping with grief, to coping with all the rest of it. But what if drinking is also the gateway to missing out on you, on who you are, missing that real conversation with your best friend at midnight, missing the pride of waking up clear-headed the next morning. In fact, missing the pride of seeing yourself in the moment turning down the drinks or sticking to your plan of one, right? Missing being totally present at the event that you were so excited for. I mean, think about this. You go to these concerts where, tickets go for huge, huge, huge amounts of money. And what do people do? They get drunk and then they miss the thing. I mean, it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. You're going to spend £400 on a ticket. You want to probably enjoy it. You want to experience it. So you're not just missing out on a night of being a little more loose and a little more uninhibited. You're also missing out on the moments that matter, right? But we don't think of it in this way. So let's talk specifics. Let's get really real world for a second. Let's take an example. So let's say you're at a wedding. This is a big one, right? These big celebrations. I have clients who say, I'm going to work with you, Anna, but not until after the wedding season. We've got 3 weddings this summer, right? So you've planned this, you're going to this wedding for months. You've picked out the outfit, the shoes. You know how you're going to do your hair. You've got your transportation organized, everything else. And then your brain says, but you can't not drink. It's a wedding. You're going to miss out on the fun, right? That's the way it goes. But when you look closer, what do you actually want from that night? Right? If you were just neutrally writing this down, is it really about the champagne? Right? If you were to write a top 10 list, you could even do that, right? Just a top 10 list of all the things I'm looking for from this event and see where champagne, where it hits. Does it even make the top 10? Probably not. So is it about the champagne, or is it about feeling the emotion in the vows of the couple, watching them get married, or the energy on the dance floor? Is it just feeling close to your family and friends? Because here's what drinking often steals. Think about this. You might be laughing more loudly, but you aren't listening as deeply. You might be dancing harder, at least for a while, but you're not going to remember all the best songs. And you might be mingling, and doing all the small talk. But at the same time, you're also checking how much wine is left at the bar and how long is it until the open bar runs out, right? We kind of have that background narrative that we've got two things going on. Makes me always think of in the corporate days when you'd be at these great big conferences with all the reseller partners and the customers and, all your colleagues, and you'd be talking to somebody and that you knew that they were just talking to you to kind of pass the time, because their eyes would always be darting over your shoulder to see if there's someone more interesting coming by. I'm sure you've experienced that, right? Either as the doer of that or the receiver. And it can be a little bit like that, right? I'm having a great time, but oh my gosh, how full is my glass? And, is it time? Is it too rude to go and get a top up? So that's a wedding. Now, or consider something a bit more cash, right? A simple night at the local pizzeria with your friends. Right, your brain might say, oh, I love a glass of wine with pizza. I mean, we used to go to this place off the Gloucester Road in London, fantastic place, Mario's, if ever you're in London and you want a nice Italian recommendation. And they would always have Verdicchio. I think that's how you pronounce it, Verdicchio. That was their wine. So for once I wouldn't have the Chablis, I'd have the Verdicchio. But I just, that was what I was going to have. I mean, that was part and parcel of it. It would not have been the same without the wine back in the day when we were going there. So that your brain might be saying it's all about the wine and making sure that's there. But actually, when you think about it, right, when you really try it, when you really go there and you imagine that you're not going to have the wine, what you might notice instead is you actually taste the food, right? You actually stay in the moment. And I know we talk about this, but really what that means is you are listening. And there is a huge difference between really hearing someone and just hearing them, their sort of background noise. You don't believe me? This evening, when you're with your spouse at dinner, do active listening. I mean, really actually listen to them, whether you could even try this without the wine, right? Just to see what the experience is like. It's totally different to just kind of being there, to actively listening. Let's go back to the pizzeria. If we don't have the drink, you're also able to drive home without thinking twice, and you wake up the next morning feeling fresh and light. None of that is missing out. It's showing up. Right? And again, this doesn't mean you have to, quote unquote, go sober. We could just have a smaller glass of wine. You could have a spritzer. Right? It's not about channeling through, the 2 glasses of large white wine, because that's what you always have. Or even now, let's consider another example, because I think looking at examples can really help. A casual night at a friend's house, right? It's the kind of evening that just happens. You're there. So do you want to stay for a spot of supper? Okay, we'll start. Oh yeah, okay, we can do that. Children are at friend's house, or in our case, the children are all grown up. So we sort of stay, watch a bit of TV, maybe play a board game. And we sort of just chat about old times, chat about what we're doing, that sort of thing, really sort of casual. If you're not drinking, you're going to stay sharp. You do stay funny. And believe me, I have clients all the time who tell me that they realize they were more amusing and they were funnier when they didn't have so much drink inside of them, right? And you're staying you. You become, you really are you. You're not sort of half in, half out, wondering about the wine. You're all there. And then you realize, if you have enough of these sort of examples, you realize that wine was never what made the night good. You did. I'll say that again. Wine is not what makes the night good. You do. Now listen, when we are thinking this through, when we're considering, but you're going to miss out, I want you to realize that the brain loves a big, vague story with a capital B, capital V, capital S, right? Big, vague story. Likes to stay vague. Like these big, sweeping, dramatic statements. It won't be as much fun. Which basically means, sort of from the minute you get somewhere to the minute you leave, it won't be as much fun. You'll miss out. It'll feel weird, right? Without sort of investigating at all. These are just stories. Until we test them, we do not know. Now, there may be some times when you go somewhere and you're not drinking or you're having the one and it is boring. But then it was always going to be boring. You just didn't realize when you had the drink. So you're not actually really missing out there. You're actually seeing the event for what it is. And this gives you information maybe next time you don't want to go. So here is your homework. I like to give homework, and this is a fun one. The next time you feel this fear of missing out, or you catch yourself thinking, what am I going to drink? I'm going to miss out. I want you to actually test it. Yeah, I want you to pick a scenario, something that comes up in your life, whether it's going to a wedding or an anniversary dinner or a dinner out or a cozy night in, or just, you're just popping around the neighbours for a spot of supper. And I want you just to give it a go without alcohol. Now, when I work with my clients, I never, ever, ever tell them how much to drink. I might suggest certain amounts when we're bringing it down. But just for this example, I just want you to go and say, I'm just going to not drink. Just going to see. And then I want you to ask yourself afterwards, did you actually miss out? And if so, what did you miss out on? Be specific. Was it feeling a little less inhibited? Okay. But do you actually care about that? Is that what you want? Because in life, what else did you miss out on? Did you miss out on maybe feeling like one of the gang, right, if everyone else was drinking? But I want you to see that that's just a thought you're making it. They probably likely don't see, you're just there with them. Your thoughts about that are under your control. You can see yourself as an outsider or as part of the gang. And it all comes down to how you're acting and feeling. This is important to do this analysis because think about this. In life, we are always negotiating. We're always making trade-offs. And you get to decide what you want to trade. Do you want to trade a few hours of feeling a little looser, and actually it's really only less than an hour or so, because after the first drink, our anxiety is rising. We know that because of what happens with the blood alcohol content. So you want to trade a few hours of feeling a little looser for a whole night, a whole memory, a whole morning of feeling present, proud and connected. Right? So you can either feel present, proud and connected and be there and really experience it, or you can sort of be a bit foggy but uninhibited. This is your choice. You are the one steering the ship here. I just don't want you to go around saying and believing these stories, but I'm just going to miss out. You can test it. And you might find there are some scenarios where absolutely you just want to have a drink for whatever reason. As long as you like your reason, that's good. But do not just assume, and do not just sort of go in. It's kind of like we almost go in zombie mode, right? Default mode, default programming. We don't want to do default programming. So the next time you hear yourself thinking, I don't want to miss out, I want you to remember it is not a stop sign. It is an invitation to look closer, to get curious and to decide on purpose, and to realize that there might always be some element of missing out. We just don't tell our brains that. You could also rewrite this. You're not missing out, you're choosing in. How about that? All right, so go and give it a try. Now listen, if this makes sense to you, if you can see it, but you're thinking, okay, I get it, but I don't know how to actually do it, or I don't know how to actually keep on doing it, because I'm sure many of you know that we can have a little bit of success, but then it's being consistent that makes all the difference. This is where I come in. I will teach you how to trust yourself again. That is where I always start with my clients. That is kind of like the number one thing we work on, rebuilding self-trust around alcohol. So many of my clients have come so far from trusting themselves that is the first thing that we build up. We talk about how to be willing to show up even when that little voice says, I don't want to. I help you through that. I'm with you. I'm alongside you. I don't make you do this. I don't make you stop drinking. I would never do that. But I'm here encouraging and beside you. This is exactly the work we do together. It will not just change your relationship with alcohol, which is kind of the headline. It will honestly change your relationship with yourself, because when you can trust yourself, when you see yourself changing, when you can see yourself, you're coming back to who you know you are, the way you show up in all other areas of your life, just not when it comes to, in my case, the Chablis, right? Whatever that is for you. You'll start to relearn yourself. So if you're ready, you want to take action. I work with people already, I'm just ready to go for it. I don't want to live with this for another few months, another year, another 10 years. I want to do this now. I want to live my life. I can show you how. I have the plan. I have the process. I know how to take you from where you are to where you want to be. And I'm able to do that for whichever kind of drinker you are. We're all sort of slightly different. We all have different attributes. I've worked with so many people now that I have all of that knowledge. And it would be my honor to work with you and get you to the other side. So if that's what you want, go to my website 90dayslater.co and click on the book a call, or you can just email me, anna@90dayslater.co, and I would love to speak with you. Otherwise, I will see you next week. If this episode hit home and you're ready to explore what life could look like with alcohol in the back seat, let's talk. I work with people one-on-one who are ready to create the relationship with alcohol that works for them, so they feel powerful in their choices and at peace with their habits. Go to 90dayslater.co and click on book a call, or grab one of the free guides in the show notes to this episode. And if this podcast is helping you, a rating or review goes a long way to help others find this work too.